ended on part 4. Okay, now we're going to start with part 6. This part for part 4. Let's see, where is this? This one for 20. Part 4 is the one what we're not going to do because we never calculated anything for 2023. So we're going to start from part 5 with the question. Okay, which is calculate the real GDP per capita if the population of the country is 50 million. Okay, so GDP per capita, it's like you are dividing the whole GDP by every citizen within the nation. Think of it like what every citizen in the nation is earning from that GDP. The higher GDP per capita, the better the nation. The lower GDP per capita, the worse the nation. I believe you've watched documentaries and you hear, oh, the GDP per capita for this country is $0.1 per person. Okay. Yes. So, just dividing the real GDP divided by the population. Okay. So in 2021, the real GDP was 110 million. Okay, 110 million divided by a population of 50 million, it's 2.2 kwacha per person. In 2022, real GDP per capita, the GDP for 2022 was 124 million, divided by 50 million, the GDP is 2.48 kwacha per person. So a higher GDP per capita, the better. Okay? It's like a measure of the standard of living of a country. Yes. Any questions, colleagues?
So with this question, the moment you see capita, we know that it's going to be per person. What ties this question for it to go to the person?
Yes, when you hear this per capita, think it's per person. Take it as per person. So you're sharing out the GDP amongst everyone in the nation. Even babies, imagine, even include babies. Now what contribution can a baby bring to the GDP per capita? That's why there are a lot of criticisms against using this as a way to measure standard of living. Okay, because not everyone is earning that same amount, basically. There are people who are rich and earning more, and there are others who are doing bad. So it's just a way of measuring the standard of living of a nation.
Mr. Mwaba, so can you relate this to where it says how scarce resources are located in micro? Is it in line with this? The allocation of scarce resources? No,
because here we're not, this GDP is not like, how can I say, it's got really nothing to do with, there's really no connection there, madam. Okay. There's really no connection there. This is just for to see the standard of living. Okay, madam? It doesn't care about resources and scarcity, no. It's just trying to see standard of living of the country. Okay. So you can compare, you can say, okay, which country is doing better? You see, GDP per capita of Zambia is 10, they usually use dollars. Okay. Maybe it's $10 per person, and then maybe in another country it's $5 per person. You'll be able to say, oh, Zambia is doing better than that other country.
Okay, so is this where those people who do the food basket and everything come in, or it's also different? Because you know, a household of maybe 5 will survive on a maybe monthly budget of maybe 5,000 and everything. Is it in line now with this one, or it's also something else?
No, that's something else. That one's for inflation. The food basket, when you're trying to do the consumer price index, where you want to trace inflation, then yes, how Central Statistics does it. Okay, each family in Zambia buys this like the standard amount of goods. Then now you trace the price levels of those goods, if they're increasing or not. So no, it's not in relation with that one. Any other questions, colleagues? Okay, so talking about inflation, we can measure.
Hello, just a minute, sir. Just a minute, sir.
Sure.
Hello, is that the one they use to calculate on average how much is every Zambian getting to just find out how on average how much a Zambian is getting in terms of salaries?
No.
They use that? They use that?
No. Here you're just saying the GDP for the nation, you're just dividing it amongst each citizen.
Oh.
Yeah. That's all that's happening.
Okay.
The GDP of the nation, every citizen, how much, what share are you getting?
Okay.
Okay. Yes, we're talking about now inflation, how we can use the GDP to measure inflation. Okay, this is where the GDP deflator comes in. Okay, it just tells us how much prices have risen from the base year. Okay, so this is the formula for the GDP deflator. Nominal GDP over real GDP times 100. Okay. So the answer that you get, okay, this is what you call base numbers. Alright? They're called base index numbers. Yes. Alright. These index numbers are just used to track percent changes, which I'm going to illustrate to you now. So, when you're dealing with a GDP deflator, to determine the inflation rate, alright, the base year, the GDP deflator is always going to be 100. Okay? Always, alright? It's always going to be 100. You don't even need to calculate it, you just put 100 there. Okay? But if you want to calculate it, the nominal GDP divided by the real GDP, you get 1. Then multiply that by 100, you're going to get 100. So the GDP deflator for the base year is going to be 100. Then next, we're going to get the GDP deflator for the next year, okay, which is 2022. Alright. So 2022, if you remember, the nominal GDP was 160. The real GDP was 124. So you're going to do 160 divided by 124. You get 1.29. Then you multiply that by 100. You're going to get 129. So, we want to find out what is the inflation rate. Okay? So to find out the inflation rate, just get the GDP deflator for the new year 2022 minus the GDP deflator for the base year, which is 100. 129 minus 100 equals 29. So this 29 represents a 29% increment in the price level of goods and services. So what we would say is price levels have increased by 29% from 2021 to 2022. Any questions?
Sir, please repeat, especially on the from 2022 all the way up to where we're getting the 29%. Maybe you can explain again.
Okay, yes. You get the GDP deflator for 2022, nominal GDP divided by real GDP times 100. Okay, so the nominal GDP for 2022 was 160. And the real GDP for 2022 was 124. Okay, so 160 divided by 124, you get 1.29. 1.29 times 100, you get 129. Are we okay up to that part, Madam Sylvia?
Yes, sir.
Now I want to see what was the inflation rate from 2021 to 2022. So you subtract the GDP deflator for 2022, which is 129, minus the GDP deflator for 2021, 100. 129 minus 100 equals 29%. So that tells us the inflation rate was 29%. Prices of goods and services rose by 29% when you're comparing 2021 and 2022. Is that okay, Madam Sylvia?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions? Now, for example, if the GDP deflator for 2022 was 90, okay, so you're going to say 90 minus 100. Okay, in case this is just another illustration, in case you get a GDP deflator that's under 100, any number that's under 100, then you know now that was a decrease in price or decrease in inflation, which we call deflation. Okay. When price level of goods and services goes down, that's called deflation. Okay. So for example, if we got a GDP deflator of 90, okay, then you say, okay, we want to see what was the inflation rate, what was the deflation rate. Just say 90 minus 100, it gives you negative 10. Okay, so you say negative 10%. Okay, so price level dropped by 10%.